It was a Chicago rapper who was gunned down here on one of Chicago's ritziest streets. They say two other people were also shot when four gunmen, witnesses say, jumped out of cars and fired from just a few feet away.
On August 4th, 2020, news broke out that Carlton Weekly, alias FBG Duck, had been shot and killed at Michigan Avenue and East Oak Street in the Gold Coast area of Chicago. The raging war between the gangster disciples and the black disciples had claimed the life of one of the most promising rappers in the city. It is no surprise that most of Duck's affiliates ended up like him. So who were FBG Duck's deadliest affiliates and what happened to them? FBG Wooski. FBG Wooski and FBG Duck go way back. In fact, sources claim that the two members of the GD started hanging out back in 2010, together with the legendary Tuka. It is interesting to note that sources from Chirac suggest that Wooski may have been the one that sparked the full-on war between major gangs in that area. These were STLEBT and Wick City, which later became O-Block. The most prevalent story about the Chirac War and its origins revolve around the death of Shondale Gregory, alias Tuka. On January 12, 2011, young Tuka was waiting for a bus on the 600 block of East 63rd Street at about 6:48 p.m. when a dark-colored vehicle pulled up. A passenger who was wearing a half mask jumped out and shot the 10th grader several times. Tuka, who hailed from the 5200 block of South Calumet Avenue, was dead when police and paramedics arrived. He was only 15 when he was killed, and many believe that his death led to the formation of Tukaville and the start of the bloody war that has ravaged Chicago. However, there is another less common event that had happened just 1 year earlier that had led to the beginning of teenagers and adults in the gangs to start mercilessly killing each other. And that event involved none other than Marvel Williams, alias FBG Wooski. Since Wooski was a GD, everyone would easily assume that he lived on 63rd and Lawrence. In fact, every few people would believe that he actually lived in Parkway Gardens, which currently is home to O-Block and the BDs. Around 2009, Wooski lived with his brother Big Mike in the Parkway Gardens housing project. At this time, Wooski was only 12 years old and was already a GD. His big brother Big Mike was a BD. As it turns out, Big Mike hated the GDs because they had killed one of his brothers named Fella. Wooski did not really know Fella, maybe because he was killed when he was too young. He found himself repping the side that had his brother killed. This put Big Mike on the spot with his gang. However, since Big Mike was loved and respected, Wooski was never jumped or shot at by the ops whenever he came to Parkway Gardens. Wooski was now part of the STLEBT and got close to Tuka and FBG Duck. At that time, the three were still in school and would freely roam around Wick City territory. In fact, they would come to settle their differences with Wick City guys after beefing in school. The older guys never got involved in these types of beef. Therefore, they did not fear pulling up to their ops territory to fight. In fact, at that time, killing the younger guys was frowned upon. However, things got out of hand when the young teens got their hands on guns. At the time, Wick City and TIMB were allies. And when Wooski and the other STLEBT members got their hands on guns, they started shooting at TIMB. They avoided Wick City mostly because of Wooski's brother. Really seems like even on opposite ends, their blood ties meant more than the gang code. The non-bloody feuds between STLEBT would continue for a while until things took a turn for the worst. In one of the altercations, a gun was fired and one person was fatally wounded. This was none other than Reezy, a member of Wick City. To make matters worse, the shooter was FBG Wooski, who was 12 years at the time. Wooski, even though was not even a teenager, had already caught his first body and crossed a line from which he could never turn back. The first real shock on him was that he was forced to move out of Parkway Gardens. This is because he had now become the top target for everyone from Wick City. They were out for blood, and not even his brother's influence could stop the bloodthirsty gang members from shooting him on sight. Wooski's ties to STLEBT became even tighter after he moved in with them after being banished from Parkway Gardens. According to sources from Chicago, the death of Reezy marked the beginning of the bloody war in Chicago, which makes a lot of sense. Many deaths have revolved around these two sects of the GDs and BDs, STLEBT and Wick City. In fact, STLEBT had their own assassin in Gakira Barnes, while Wick City had T-Roy and King Von. Wooski's action escalated the feud from physical altercations between the teenagers to an all-out armed affair between everyone in the two gangs. It was now shot on sight. Eventually, the back and forth between the two led to the popular deaths of Tuka and O.D. Perry. These deaths only made everything worse and played a crucial role in thrusting younger kids in the area into the gruesome war. Something significant about Reezy's death was that there was no longer a stigma around shooting kids. Everyone involved in the war had become so cold-hearted that they even took to social media to brag about the number of people they had shot and killed. They even taunted and threatened each other online for the whole world to see. And as Wooski continued running riot in the streets for his gang, his ops were looking for any opportunity to get even. It did not take very long before someone close to Wooski was caught in the crossfire. This was none other than Wooski's cousin Modell. In October 2012, 17-year-old Richard Modell was shot and killed in the 6300 block of South Rhodes Avenue. That day, Modell and his 18-year-old cousin, who who was identified as Miles, were on their way to meet a girl in the West Woodlawn neighborhood on the south side when someone walked up and opened fire just before 9:30 p.m. According to reports, Miles bent over to embrace Modell, who was bleeding out from the gunshot wounds on his chest. However, the shooter, who many believe was King Von, showed no remorse. He stood over the two and shot Miles multiple times on his back. Modell was taken to Stroger Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries, while Miles was rushed to Northwestern Memorial Hospital with multiple gunshot wounds and remained in a medically induced coma for weeks. The gang war quickly evolved as the warring sides took to music to outdo each other. Diss tracks became the order of the day as the world was introduced to Chirac. Wooski also got in on the action as he, Duck, and a few others formed the Flyboy Gang, FBG. Under this name, they made drill music, which focused on the gang war in Chicago and dissing their rivals. Wooski was on his way to come up in the rap world, as he had even put out Computer Remix, which became a hit and currently has over 30 million views on YouTube. That was until tragedy struck in 2018. That year, one of Wooski's friends, rapper Vantrease Chris, alias Dusky Thay Man, was shot dead by an op. Being a loved figure in the community, O-Block members knew that the funeral would be jam-packed with ops. This was a chance to get one of their most dangerous and evasive op, FBG Wooski.
We've learned a little bit more about the victims this afternoon. There were a total of 6 people who were shot outside the church. It was a pandemonium, a scene of pandemonium right after that happened. Many of those people who were shot were leaving a funeral inside the church.
During the funeral, Muwop, DQ, and 2 others pulled up. Muwop and DQ opened fire on the mourners. Some of the gang members mourning their fallen soldier, including Wooski, also pulled out their firearms and shot back. The operation was starting to look like a failure as no one was getting hit. However, as the attackers were about to give up, Wooski was shot in the head and fell to the ground. Seeing this, the shooters got back in their getaway car and sped off. Wooski was not the only shot. 6 people in total sustained gunshot wounds. Luckily, everyone survived, including Wooski, who was shot in the head. After getting well, Wooski did not use this incident as a wake-up call. Instead, he continued causing trouble. He was soon arrested for aggravated use of a weapon. However, he stopped sliding on his ops and was no longer a threat nor a target, and has since disappeared from the public eye. FBG Cash, a member of the Flyboy Gang who was not as lucky as Wooski was, Tristan Hamilton, alias FBG Cash. But unlike most of those before him, he was never a fan of the gang war in his home area. In fact, when the Chirac war started, Cash was in jail.
You know, when FBG kind of popped off early, I didn't really see you.
Yeah, I was absent.
Okay, where was you at?
I was in prison.
In 2009, when he was 18 years old, FBG Cash was arrested for armed robbery and sentenced to 6 years behind bars.
What age were you when you first got arrested?
18.
So what'd you get arrested for at 18?
Armed robbery.
Luckily, he did only 31 months in jail and was out on house arrest.
I had 6 years. With a good time, I knocked down to 31 months.
According to Cash, during his short stint in prison, the place he called home was no longer the same. Major changes took place in Chicago in the span of 2 years that would also define his life's trajectory and ultimately his death. In an interview, FBG Cash revealed that when he was locked up in 2009, the gang war had not yet kicked off. At the time, Chief Keef, Duck, and most of the popular rappers and gangsters in Chicago were just kids.
It wasn't going on before I left. Like, it wasn't none of that. Keith was a kid, Duck was a kid. And man, all them was young.
When he came home in 2011, Cash found that everyone hated each other to the point that they were ready to kill each other on sight. According to Cash, the situation was so bad that there was no room for making peace.
I came home, had bad vibes between each other. So it was like that you couldn't even come back from.
Being out of jail on good behavior, Cash did not want to go back there. According to him, jail was not a fun place. Therefore, he did not want to be caught up in all the murders happening around him. It is worth remembering that he had seen many of his friends die in the war. However, unlike many around him, he was not fueled by anger and revenge, and did not participate in the death and destruction that was claiming countless lives in Chicago. Apart from that, he was way older than the young guys who were taking the war seriously. In an interview with Adam 22 on No Jumper, the rapper made it clear that although he could not back down from anything in the streets, he was not really about that life. In fact, according to him, he was only guilty by association.
You feel like you've just been dragged into it in a way?
Yeah, I'm guilty by association, you know what I'm saying? But shit, I'm standing on whatever. Like, I ain't backing down for shit. I ain't apologizing to nobody.
Although FBG Cash grew around gang violence, he never wanted to be a part of it. This was evident when he was publicly called out by one of his own gang members. This was none other than FBG Butta. According to Butta, Cash never slid on their ops a day in his life, an accusation that Cash himself never denied. In fact, while speaking to Adam 22, he made it clear that he hated black on black violence.
I could really care less, you know what I'm saying? Like, damn, I ain't really with no motherfucker. black on black violence, to be honest.
FBG Cash wanted none of the smoke that was associated with the Chirac War. However, there was a silver lining. When he came home from jail, he found that the gangs were dissing each other in music and it was taking off. According to him, he immediately wanted to be a part of that.
I came home and it was that I saw the craft they done made for themselves,
Right.
and then I was like, damn, I want some too.
True to it, he became invested in the rap game and joined the Flyboy gang. He did not really take off until Duck was killed. For the longest time, Duck had carried the mantle for the GDs in the rap game. The BDs had King Von, Chief Keef, and Lil Durk. When Duck was killed, FBG Cash took it upon himself to lead the Flyboy gang, which he did well as he started blowing up. However, it came at a cost. He had tried hard not to get involved in the gang war that was raging in Chicago. As the most popular GD rapper, he was forced to diss his ops in music and even on social media. That was one of the reasons that his music blew up. After King Von died in a tragic shooting in Atlanta, the hip-hop world came together to mourn his death. In the coming days, a mural was created for him in Chicago, where even Soulja Boy went to visit. Well, FBG Cash was not left behind, as he also took a photo next to the mural showing his middle finger. However, instead of having kind words for the deceased rapper, he captioned the post saying, "Whole world witnessed yo main sniper get his shit splat." This stunt did not go down well with Von's guys, and especially with his best friend Lil Durk. Lil Durk also decided to stick up for Von by warning Cash in his song Computer Murderers, where he raps, "Sneaking pics by Von Mural like Lil Bro won't come out and spin." Seemingly enjoying the attention, Cash would use Durk's beat on Computer Murderers and continue dissing King Von, singing, "Von got his ass clapped, you had us thinking he was stressed." Cash was loving the clout as it was building his music career. He even started trolling his ops in interviews. In one interview, he was asked about his infamous stunt at King Von's mural. He responded by saying that Lil Durk had told him to do it.
Then I think at some point you take the picture in front of O-Block, in front of the King Von mural.
Mm-hmm.
So what was going on with all that?
Dirk told me to do that.
Dirk told you to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was not the first time Cash was trolling. In another interview, he claimed that he had slept with Chief Keef's mom. Although many people believe that he may not be capping, there is a huge possibility that he was just trying to get at his op. In an interview on No Jumper, Cash revealed that the first time he actually started getting famous was when he was dating Chief Keef's mom.
It was that happened with me and Chief Keef mama, and that just put me over the top. Like, far as like people want to know who I am.
What happened with his mom?
Like, I used to with her. Like, yeah. Yeah. I ain't gonna cap.
Whether it was cap or not, one thing that everyone knew was that Cash was a ladies' man. He loved women, maybe a little too much, and this would lead to his tragic death. Even his op, Lil Durk, had taken to Instagram to warn him. "Don't diss Thang if you be lingering and chasing hoes. Won't end well." That's March, the Instagram story read. Cash never headed to Durk's advice.
A Southside rapper was killed this morning after a gunman armed with a rifle opened fire on his car. 31-year-old Tristan Hamilton performed under the name FBG Cash.
On the 9th of June 2022, Cash was picked up by a female friend and headed for a nightclub. After the club, the rapper took her to a friend's house to sleep with her. At around 5 in the morning, Cash drove the car home with the girl in the back seat. According to her, she was tired and wanted to sleep. A few minutes later, Cash stopped at the stop sign on the 1600 block of West 81st when a car cut them off. 3 men jumped out and opened fire. Cash exited the vehicle as he shot back. However, he was soon overpowered. Cash was later taken to Christ Hospital in Oak Lawn, where he succumbed to his injuries. The gang war had claimed yet another promising rapper's life, Lil J. Jeff McGraw, alias Lil J, is a rapper from Chicago who was associated with the Flyboy gang, and by extension, the Gangster Disciples. Unlike FBG Wooski, who lived with the BDs but was a GD from the start, Lil J was actually a BD and flipped, becoming a GD. The rapper was introduced to FBG Duck by a mutual friend, and the two soon became good friends. The two were so tight that at one time Lil J was homeless, and Duck's mom allowed him to stay with them. Unlike FBG Cash, Lil J was sucked into the gang war and soon started putting in work for his gang and was fast building his reputation as a fierce shooter. As early as 2011, the rapper had already caught his first body. Apart from that, sources from Chicago seem to suggest that Lil J may have been present when O.D. Perry was killed. Interestingly, reports show that even FBG Duck may have been present and was the getaway driver that night. In 2012, Lil J started taking music seriously as he and Duck released Critical, a diss directed at Chief Keef. At the time, Keef was blowing up in the rap industry, so the diss also brought a lot of attention to the two young rappers. The two continued dissing their their ops and getting attention. They were putting the GDs on the map. As their success grew, so did hatred from the ops. 600 Breezy was the most vocal about his hatred for Lil J. He even took to social media to let his feelings known. "Once I smoke Lil J, Emma retire," 600 Breezy tweeted. All this beefing and sliding on ops soon caught up with Lil J as he was shot 9 times in his legs and the back of his neck. Just like FBG Wooski, Lil J did not take this as a wake-up call to quit the streets. After making his recovery, he was back to his old ways, which led to him being shot again. But this time, he sustained 6 gunshot wounds. Having been shot 15 times and going back to the streets, Lil J earned the nickname, the Chirac Wolverine. However, there was trouble in paradise as Lil J started getting close to members of Brick Squad right around the time that STL EBT started beefing with them. And after Duck and Lil J got into an argument, Lil J stopped claiming FBG. Lil J accused Duck of not coming to see him in jail. However, while on interviews, Duck revealed that he never went to see people in jail, even his close relatives. Duck also revealed that he and Lil J were not even on good terms way before J was locked up. According to Duck, Lil J was not moving with the gang and always wanted to do his own thing. And when it came to the music, everyone else was putting in work while Lil J was not bringing his A game to the studio. While Duck acknowledged that J was a good rapper, his problem was that he repeated the same bars on their songs.
We never thought you couldn't rap. It was just why the you study saying the same shit.
The most damning thing was that he was stealing money from Duck. Although it was not a large amount, Duck let the guys rough him up to teach him a lesson about not stealing from your homies. That's when Lil J broke away from FBG and formed We The Ops, or WTO, with FBG Butta and Philman Razine. However, this was the beginning of the end for Lil J. In 2015, the three were involved in a shootout in a drug deal gone wrong. After an argument with the drug dealer, the trio went home and came back to the dealer's house armed. A shootout ensued and Philman Razine was shot and killed. The drug dealer claimed self-defense while Lil J was convicted of murder conspiracy and having the intent to kill and hurt and sentenced to 12 years behind bars. J caught the murder charge because he was committing a crime that resulted in a death. However, he was eligible to get out in 2022, which he did. Rumors have been spreading about the rapper's time behind bars. Apparently, while in jail, the Chicago rapper had a transgender boyfriend. These rumors surfaced way back in 2013, and 10 years later, video surfaced confirming the allegations. SG Batman revealed in an interview that he saw all this while he was in jail with Lil J.
It ain't even allegation. All this niggas talking about is real. I heard this shit before anybody said that Lil J was sucking in the county. But I couldn't say it because they gonna be, oh, you hate.
THF Crack also confirmed this rumor 1 year before the video surfaced.
We've been hearing a lot of talk about Lil J in the county.
Oh, man.
On transgenders.
He let him off stretch his rubber band.
What is even more interesting is that Lil J had previously come out denying all these rumors, even before the video surfaced.
Another thing too is people were talking about, you know, some tranny or messing with a guy. Let's clear the air on that too. That's like the #1 thing people want to talk about.
When I heard that that was the most goofiest shit I ever heard in my life.
In the leaked CCTV footage, Lil J is seated while another inmate leans over and kisses him. Later on in the video, the same inmate sits on Lil J's lap. The hip-hop world was on hand to react to this video. According to Lil Reese, the cat was out of the bag and it was no longer a rumor.
No longer a rumor. It's no longer a rumor, man.
However, Lil J put out a statement denying that it was him in the video. Y'all try to tarnish the face, man. Y'all try anything. Face don't match, tattoos don't match, body don't, skin tone. Come on, man, make it make sense. However, a second video leaked where the rapper can be seen choking the same inmate that had sat on his lap emerged, confirming that it was him.
Well, he denied it was him.
Yeah, I know. He gonna deny it. He can't deny it the second time when the other video dropped when he was choking that motherfucker.
Just months after he was released from jail in 2022, Lil J was reportedly taken back into police custody on firearms-related charges. We can only hope that he gets himself out of trouble and goes back to making music. Gakira Barnes. This is arguably the deadliest of the bunch. Over the years, the name Gakira Barnes has become common among rap fans in the country and worldwide. The stories surrounding that name are so bizarre and read like a plot from a Hollywood script. Maybe it's because Gakira was a teenage girl leaving the thug life, or maybe it was the many deaths that were attached to her name. Whichever it is, Gakira Barnes, alias K.I., reputation in the streets was both feared and respected. K.I. and FBG Duck were close friends. In fact, K.I. would often go to Duck's house, something that Duck's mom revealed after his death.
You mentioned K.I. You said K.I. was in your house very often.
That's my baby.
In fact, K.I. and FBG Duck's sister were best friends.
She was my daughter's best friend.
The two found themselves on the same side in the brutal war between the GDs and the BDs. As allies from a young age, the two were forced to look out for each other. Unfortunately, K.I. would meet her demise at a tender age of just 17. However, she had definitely made a name for herself. By the time she passed away, young K.I. had become a ruthless killer in the streets of Chicago and was often called Snoop in the streets. The name was in reference to a ruthless murderer on the fictional television series The Wire. Rumor on the street has it that before she died, K.I. had murdered someone by the young age of 14 and might have been responsible for as many as 20 murders. She struck fear into her ops' hearts. Even her biggest enemies, O-Block, considered her a pest.
K.I. was like a pest.
K.I. was a daredevil. She would constantly taunt her ops, knowing very well that she might get killed. According to J Hood, a former O-Block member, one time K.I. showed up with a bike, taunted O-Block gang members, and managed to get away on her bike as they chased her down.
I remember her riding on the bike, like, you know, taunting us, and nigga, we trying to chase her back on the block, but she get out of that skirt on the bike, she gone. And yo, she was somebody that, like, we hated.
But this was not the only reason that K.I. was hated by her ops, especially from O-Block. The main reason was that she had killed one of O-Block's most feared, loved, and respected shooters, O.D. Perry. O.D. Perry was feared by his ops, but loved and respected by his people. His death was felt all over Chicago as his wedding was jam-packed with mourners that people could not even get in his funeral.
O was loved, like overly loved. His funeral was packed. His funeral? I ain't never seen nobody funeral that packed. I didn't even know OD knew all them people. That was packed. People couldn't even get in that on my life. And I'm like, I seen, oh, hella years. How the hell he know all these people?
Rumor had it that the killer had even stolen OD's gun and posted photos brandishing the weapon on social media. It wasn't long before the rumor was attached to none other than Gakira Barnes. She also took to social media to brag about her crime. So what had caused such a young girl to turn to such a life? In fact, reports suggest that K.I. wanted to be a social worker when she grew up. Her mother described her as a sweet, loving girl. While most of her gang members and ops were forced into the war by association, she had suffered heartache after two people close to her were killed in the gang war. These were her close friend Tuka and her cousin Taekwon Tyler. These deaths broke the camel's back and turned K.I. into the fierce assassin she later became known. However, the daring teenage assassin would soon meet her match as she gunned her down on April 11th, 2014.
Within 12 short hours across Chicago, 14 people were wounded, 2 people killed, one of them being Brown's oldest child.
I'm just gonna miss her presence. She was a very, very beautiful, well-known, lovely girl.
According to K.I.'s mom, her daughter was not the girl who everyone made out to be. Mrs. Brown admitted to hearing rumors about her daughter's street life. However, when she confronted her, Gakira had denied all allegations, and naturally, her mother believed her. I can't say if she killed somebody or not. I was not there. I don't know. I've heard rumors and gossip come to me. I've talked to my daughter and asked her, and my daughter said no, Brown said. Even people at her former schools could not believe the news about her death and gang life. According to the assistant principal of Southside Charter School, where K.I. attended from the 8th grade, Gakira was shy, even timid. The assistant principal also revealed that in Gakira's first month in school, she was suspended for being disrespectful. However, after that, she did not get into trouble in school. In fact, by the end of 8th grade, she had a few friends and was smiling more. When Barnes returned for her freshman year, her attendance was wanting. Eventually, she dropped out after she landed in the juvenile justice system. In 2011, Barnes was charged with discharging a weapon, although no gun was recovered, her mother said. Barnes was ordered to attend an alternative school in Cook County's juvenile detention center. On April 11th, a hooded gunman shot Barnes in front of a home in the 6,400 block of South Eberhard. K.I. was hit 9 times in the mouth, neck, and chest before running and collapsing on a neighbor's doorstep and passing out. She later succumbed to her injuries at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. That day, she was walking with her brother, FBG Butta, and a friend. All 3 sustained gunshot wounds, but it seemed as though K.I. was the intended target, as the other 2 survived. So who killed the teenage assassin? For many years, this remained a mystery. At first, Davon Bennett, alias King Von, had been arrested in connection with the shooting after he was identified by eyewitnesses. However, police were unable to meet the burden of proof in court, and so charges were rejected because of the lack of strong evidence to convict Bennett. Years later, after King Von died in a tragic shooting in Atlanta, reports started showing that Von had indeed killed K.I. According to police reports, the shooter wore a gray hoodie and blue jeans. He approached the 3 victims, produced a handgun, and began firing in the direction of the victims, striking all 3. He was then observed entering an unknown vehicle and fleeing the scene. Even Jay Hood, a former O-Block member and close friend to Vaughn, confirmed this. According to him, Vaughn walked up to him and gave him the shocking news.
And then Vaughn walked up to me, and I shook his hand. He like, look straight. And then I look straight, and I'm like, why are you telling me to look straight? He like, look straight, and what I'm finna say to you, don't look at me after I tell you.
According to the former O-Block member, Vaughn told him that he had shot 3 people and that K.I. was the last one of the 3 he had shot and killed.
I just run up on K.I. and why I just ran up on them niggas and caught K.I. She was the last one running out of the gate.
As soon as Vaughn told him this, sirens could be heard in the distance getting closer.
And I'm just in my head like, damn, for real? And sure enough, after he told me that, sirens came.
However, K.I.'s brother, FBG Butta, who was present at the scene, denies this. He denies the fact that Vaughn was responsible for his sister's death.
Man, what I know is, on my dead, Vaughn didn't kill Kai.
According to him, he saw the shooter and claims that the killer is already dead.
I got shot too. I was right there. I got shot too. I saw the motherfucker who popped us. He did.
FBG Duck's mom had a different opinion on the matter. According to her, the documentaries about Vaughn being a serial killer were true. Although Mrs. Weekly did not directly confirm whether Vaughn did it, she hinted at the blogs being true. However, even more recently, leaked police documents revealed that FBG Butta confessed to cops that King Vaughn killed his sister. According to the documents, Cooperator 3 was also present for and witnessed the murder of his sister Gakira Barnes by O-Block member Davon Bennett. It turns out Vaughn stood over K.I.'s body and shot her multiple times. That was the tragic ending of Gakira Barnes.